From AIT Studios in Abuja, Nigeria, this is the O&M Sunday Show with Obiora Ilo and Mamode Akuga.
Hello, welcome to your Sunday Show, the O&M Sunday Show. Well, today we are going to talk just politics. You know, after the elections of the 28th, when Nigerians came out in their numbers to choose a new president, 2 weeks later, Nigerians came out again to elect governors and elect members of the Houses of Assembly. It looks like the elections for the House of Assembly and for governors have become so contentious in a lot of states. So today, we are focusing on those elections, especially those states where the elections have been rescheduled. We'll also be going to Delta State, where there are still disagreements about what happened and what didn't happen in the last election. I am Obiora Ilo. Mamode Akuga is here.
Yes, and welcome once again to the O&M Show. It's a Sunday edition, and Obiora has been talking a lot about the elections for governorship and the State House of Assembly. But very interesting headline in one of the dailies today, and this, of course, will not come as a surprise to most people. If you just let me pick up the paper, as a matter of fact, I'm talking about Punch newspapers, and I don't know for those who have seen it, those who haven't seen the papers this morning. Very interesting headline, and Punch is saying it's an exclusive interview. The headline says, Jonathan demands 2 trillion naira election funds refund. Party officials spend money on cars and property, especially luxury property in Abuja. And then top PDP members ask Adamu Muazu to quit. Now, if you go into the body of this story, and for me, like I said, Punch is saying it's an exclusive to them. They've spoken to some people who are quite close to President Jonathan, who are in the cabinet, and some of them are saying that ministers got as much as 20 billion naira to mobilize for the elections. And the president is quite unhappy that some of them could not even win their polling units, not to talk of winning their villages or even their local governments.
Well, Mamode, first of all, is that we've become so corrupt in this country that when people talk about sums of money, you know, they don't even shiver. I mean, you're looking at 2 trillion. What is the budget of Nigeria as a country that the president would have spent 2 trillion mobilizing for his election? And then one minister gets 20 billion. You know, where will they be carrying it? Is it going to use a trailer or a yacht or a passenger
most of it
a cargo plane?
Most of it is not in naira, I can assure you that. A lot of it is converted into foreign exchange, pounds, dollars, euros, and what have you. But you know, the very, very intriguing part of this situation is that they can't get all the money back.
Oh no, but before we even...
And then there are some monies that they will definitely not get back.
Of course.
Take your mind back to the Naira spree. You remember all the reports in the papers.
The
President Jonathan was spraying dollars, as it were, to traditional rulers in the Southwest. And, I mean, that kind of money, you can't get it back.
Of course, you won't get any money back in this kind of business.
You might get from your ministers.
No, what will they do? I mean, the person has spent the money, and don't forget that the government is shutting down.
And there's no receipt.
There's no receipt. But what I'm even saying, Mamode, is that there may be some truth in the story that the president is angry and is asking for some refund.
Yes.
What I have issues with is the amount of money. Because why I'm saying that is that you and I know, and we have talked about it privately, we have talked about it on this program, that just before the election, the president was angry with his officials who had the resources to mobilize for PDP, especially the presidential election,
and
they were diverting such sums. And in the runoff and days after the election, we have concrete evidence of officials in the election campaigns, ministers who bought cars, who bought houses, who donated this and that. I mean, it's true, you know, and it also goes to show
private aircrafts too.
Less on credence to what people were saying, that a lot of those that were working with Jonathan were not really working for him.
They were not.
They didn't even believe in the
Jonathan presidency.
The success of Jonathan's presidential campaign. So they were saving, in quotes, for the rainy day.
They were yes, and well, it remains to be seen what is going to happen with Jonathan and his top aides as it concerns the money. But what you can see, a lot top PDP members are already coming out to do publicly. I mean, this is not hidden. The former advisor, political affairs to President Jonathan Goodluck, has come out openly to say, look, Adamu Muazu, for God's sake, please just turn in your resignation. You led the party to terrible disaster in the elections.
Does that mean they've added an appellation to the game changer, negative game changer, unsuccessful game changer?
I think we talked about it. It changed the game for PDP negatively. And I mean, you don't need to wait for people to tell you to resign. You should do that honorably and just walk away and allow the party reinvent itself and rediscover itself.
I'm sure in the days to come, we'll be bringing stalwarts of the PDP who will be telling us how they intend to re-engineer the party. To re-engineer the party. But one of the things that is a part of this season is the jostling for political position. I heard so many years ago about Zik, the great Zik being the beautiful bride. But today, the beautiful bride is Buhari. Everybody is heading to his village. Yes. When he's in Abuja, there's no breathing space. Everybody's looking for a job. Either they want to be members of the transition committee or they want to be minister and all that. Yes. And again, even in the National Assembly, you know, high wire politics on who becomes president of the Senate, who becomes the speaker. But we hear, according to this day, that finally APC zone speaker to Southwest, SGF to Southeast, and a couple of other positions to a couple of zones in the country.
I would say immediately that Edo State will find that very disappointing because that's one state that has kept faith with the APC for a long time. They've helped in bringing APC to national limelight. And in the current configuration, you'll see that the South and the Southeast, because they voted massively for PDP, will not be enjoying too much in the current administration. But be that as it may, those states, they were thinking that, in all honesty, at least for the South to get something, that the Speaker of the House of Reps should go to Edo State, which is a strong APC state with members of the House of Reps from APC.
No, but the South is still enjoying the appurtenances of the presidency. So they should just wait a while.
They should make do with that. All right. But to the issues of the day, so that...
Mahmoud, do you think we should go to issues of the day without talking about what is happening in South Africa?
Well, one of the papers today rightly described it as madness. And for me, there's no other better way to describe it. I think that's Vanguard. The Vanguard newspaper describes it as the madness in South Africa. And I think that's what's happening. Our government is very ready to evacuate Nigerians from South Africa, even if the South African government at this time is saying, please, we guarantee the safety of the
only worry is that there are discordant voices. The Minister of Foreign Affairs says no Nigerian is involved. You hear from other government officials a couple of Nigerians have been wounded and all that. I hope they just get it right so that Nigerians will be taken care of.
We can be sure exactly of the figures we're talking about, if Nigerians are even involved at all. But going to the politics of the day, later on, we can tell you for a fact that the results in Delta State are going to be contested. That's because on Friday night, we had the Director General of the Ortega for Governor campaign in Delta State. We didn't have time to talk to him on Friday. He was just able to put in a word that they are definitely going to the tribunal. So today we are going to be speaking with Benjamin Ogbalor, who was here on Friday night for a few minutes. And then he'll be in the studios today again to talk to us about why they want to go to the tribunal to contest, the results from Delta State. But we'll also be joined by phone to Warri, Delta State, Dr. Joseph Otumara. That's the Director General for the OCOA campaign organization. So he too will be joining us by phone to give us their own reaction to whatever the APC or the Labour Party is saying that the elections in Delta State were fraudulent.
And then today we'll start our focus on the postponed elections. Today our searchlight is in Abia State. We're joined on the phone from Umuahia by the Commissioner for Information of the PDP government in Abia State, Dr. Anthony Agbazwari. And in the studio in a moment, we'll be having the manager elections of APGA in Abia State, the man that was like overseeing the elections for APGA in Abia State. And that's when we return. Don't go away.
Action!
Ja? So ein schönes Tag in Afrika. Gut. Hello, I'm from Germany. How are you? How much is this for?
Schnell! Du bewegst dich wie ein Auto, schnell!
Oh,
Was?
That's quite hilarious. There's nothing you don't get to see when you watch the internet. Well, like Mahmoudi said when we were starting, we have again Benjamin Ogbalor, DG of Ortega for Governor Campaign Organization in Delta State. We started a conversation with him. He laid the groundwork for that conversation. Today, we are going to more details of what the APC says went wrong with the elections in Delta State. Good to see you again.
My pleasure.
You're
How do
welcome.
you do? Happy Sunday.
Good to see you.
Felix, how are you?
I'm fine. So, Ben, you have decided that you are going to the tribunal. In Delta State, over the years, we've seen every single election in Delta State from 2003 has been contested at the tribunal. And yes, there was once that a rerun was ordered, but it has never in the history of Delta State changed the results or the situation in Delta State. How will this be different?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, viewer. The question is tantamount to what has happened even in the country. It was said before now that it's not possible to defeat a sitting president. Now today, General Buhari has been a sitting president. And we know that what this country just lacked was leadership. Now we have a man who's going to lead this country in the right direction. And Nigerians are very good followers. Taking a cue from the person of Buhari, both the courts, the lawyers, the judges, and even the citizenry will take a cue and go for what is best for this country. We cannot keep writing results of elections. It's wrong. No, let me tell you something.
Are you suggesting by your submission that we will have a judiciary that will be very, very fair, and that we have not had one that has been very fair?
Well, before now, we know we've had issues with the judiciary. Again, the judiciary is part of the society. But the judiciary now realizes that the country has moved. The people have set the pace to go in a different direction. And there are people in this country, so themselves too, we look inward and ensure that they play their role in this new era of Nigerian politics and governance. So the judiciary has no choice. They have no choice. They will go the direction of the people. And that direction is actually also good for the judiciary, because Nigerians are looking for such a day that they can go to the courts, knowing that when they get there, their expectations will be met. So the judiciary will actually be the winner for that. So I don't see how they will reverse the hand of the clock. This time, anybody who doesn't feel well about these elections should challenge them, And quite frankly, in the South, especially in Delta State, this election was just a sham. They didn't happen. But somehow INEC announced these results. Really, I'm a bit surprised, because INEC set the benchmarks, the procedures and guidelines. It was very clear. If by Friday you don't have materials at your rack, that election stand and all, you do it, on Sunday. If by in the morning of the election in your ward or in your unit, accreditation has not started, INEC promised that this will, the election will stand down and take it the next day. If electoral officers, returning officers, have responsibility to check the number of ballot papers that were given out. If you give 400 ballot papers, like it happened in Isoko, for instance, in Emede in Isoko, and you now start getting results of 800 for that same unit, you don't need to go to the tribunal to do this. The officer who is sitting in that place, who gave her this material should, as a matter of procedure, check, is there overvoting? What is the guidelines, governing overvoting? Then you will reject that result. But this did not take place.
Well, let me ask, the scenario you're painting is you accredit 400 voters, and then after accreditation, when it was time for voting, they voted, and then when they start counting the ballot papers, they discover that 800 people had voted. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And how could that happen when there was accreditation? Where did these foreigners, this other 400, come from? Or are we saying that the ballot boxes were stuffed before or after?
Okay. In fact, the interesting thing is that what went on in most of the places was that accreditation went midway, and the PDP, who had most of the electoral officers on their side, abandoned it in some places and simply wrote the results. Now, but what they forgot was that at inception, ballot papers were distributed, and it was only 400 that was the amount that was given to most of the units, and this was recorded. But at the time in the evening when they were collecting, because those who wrote the result were not those who accredited, they didn't know that the fact of exactly. So now what's happening is people are now working from the answers to the questions, But the point I'm making is that, INEC should put its house in order and ensure that these things are dealt with, in the respective units and the respective collation centers. But what you see is that electoral officers and returning officers, who obviously have been compromised, went ahead to read the results and ask us to go to court. This is unfair. I really think that Jega should be bold enough to reverse this and see let's just check. I mean, they were card readers. What was the accreditation of those card readers? Do they tally with the numbers that we are seeing today? Definitely not. They don't tally. So something needs to be done. And I'm insisting that what needs to be done is really administrative. It's simple arithmetic.
Now, there were more than one political party involved in that election. What we have seen in Delta State is that there's cross-accusation. You are from the APC.
Yeah.
We've also heard from Labour Party, represented by Great Ogbalor, who has also called the elections a sham. There are also members of PDP who have accused, for instance, the Labour Party and the APC of rigging the elections in those places where the parties are very strong, where your party, of course, has some support. You have also rigged. So there's cross, accusation. These things you were talking about just now. How certain are you that they could not have been linked, for instance, to Labour Party?
Oh, so the point is this. PDP concluded that there were malpractices. Labour concluded the same thing, and EPC concluded then the elections should be cancelled. So we are speaking the same language. So all parties have agreed, if what you're saying is correct, that these elections did not meet the test. And if they did not meet the test, they should be voided.
But does INEC, starting from Jega down, do they have the latitude, looking at our laws and the Electoral Act, to cancel an election for these reasons that you are advancing right now?
Yes, before the announcement, they have a responsibility. They stated that that's what they're going to do. They ought to have cancelled the elections.
But now that the election is over, are you still saying they should, do a reverse and cancel the elections?
Well, now that we've crossed that threshold, the option,
yes,
unfortunately, under the law, is for you to go to the tribunal. However, INEC, therefore, should walk back and identify the people who committed this crime, because these are electoral crimes, so that they can take the next step. We're not doing this just for today. We're also doing it to ensure that the system is cleansed off for future generation. We can't keep having people, adulterating and making a mess of our electoral system. Then they get away with it. Then the next time they come again and do the same thing. In presidential election, this was done. In presidential election,
I think that yes, Dr. Otumara. Hello, Dr. Otumara.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, you are live on AIT at this time.
And that's the Director General.
Yes.
I can hear you.
Yes. Okay.
That's the Director General of the Okowa campaign.
Of the Okowa campaign representing PDP. Now, Dr. Otumara, there's been accusation, for instance, from the APC and even from Labour Party that the elections in Delta State were fraudulent, and that the victory that your party and your candidate, Okowa, is enjoying even at this time is undeserved. What will be your reaction to that?
All right, thank you.
Are you there, Doctor?
I'm here.
Yeah, so
Thank you. Well, I listened to this, the DG of Otega Campaign Organization. Can you hear me?
yes,
Please go ahead.
All right. I find the gentleman very funny, because I think these are issues of people being a bad loser.
Why do you say that?
The country is going into a new direction where people should actually do like the way Mr. President has done. He conducted an election. The election was conducted at the presidency. Well, APC won, and he congratulated the person who won, which is the person of General Buhari. Now, in Delta State, it's looking at it. Election was conducted. There is a coalition of, observers, accredited election observers, who made their reports known, and they said, they said that from our observation, despite a few issues, the governorship and state assembly election held in Delta State on the 11th of April free, fair, and credible, and in our opinion, represent a true reflection of the people's wish.
Okay, so what?
I do not know what the gentleman, card readers were brought in, people were accredited. A total number of people that were accredited was actually more than the total number of voters, because there were some void votes. You know, and he's talking, you know, the total vote by the PDP candidate is actually, the total vote for the PDP candidate is 726,680, as against his own for Omera, APC, 67,825. Were they actually sleeping? You know what? You can imagine the margin. The margin is so wide, and that is not far-fetched. The reason is not far-fetched because ask them whether they actually campaign. Do they campaign in any place in Delta State?
Okay.
When the PDP trail was campaigning in every local government, every ward, in fact, every local government we visited 3 times. You know, where were they? They never campaigned. There was no known campaign made by them. There are no structure on ground. So that in itself is an indication of failure.
Okay, Dr. Otumara, just stay on the line with us, please. Let me quickly get the reaction of Mr. Ogbalor on this submission you made just now. I mean, looking at the gap, the margin, Dr. Otumara says is from 720-something thousand to 60-something thousand. The margin is indeed very, very wide, Mr. Ogbalor. And I don't know how you react to that.
Okay, I'm sure, as you are aware, Dr. Otumara is used to such margins. And that's exactly what Dr. Otumara and his friends did in 2007. And the tribunal returned them back to the starting block. So it's a normal thing for him. When things are abnormal, they are usual to the PDP. Let me tell you something. The most keenly contested election in Delta State, where everybody came out, was a run between Great Ogbaru and Dr. Odwara, who, by the way, Otumara was supporting, you know. And the total vote cast was 413, in spite of the jamboree votes that came from Warri North of close to 100,000. Now, in this election, in Ika Northeast, where Dr. Okowa is from, they scored more than 70,000 votes. They wrote for themselves. In that election where Ogbaru, where that king contest that took place, the total votes from the place were less than 17,000 votes.
Was less than what?
17,000. In Isokosa, for instance, the total vote cast then was less than 15,000. Now they are having 45,000. In Isoko North, it was 11,000 then. Now it's 55,000. Look, the truth is, and I'm sure the gentleman knows, that the PDP just went to town. The PDP had security on their side. They had INEC on their side. In fact, what they did was to cordon off the coalition centers so that other parties could go in. You have, in every coalition center, you probably have 300 PDP to 1 agent. So they were simply completing results, rewriting them, and announcing them. You know, so and it's not new. That's the culture in the state.
But let me also ask, is it possible that the PDP also removed votes that were gotten by your candidate?
Oh, yes.
Reduced it by some margins or whatever? Because 65,000 and 700,000 is a lot.
Exactly. It's laughable. Let me tell you, the APC, you know, the APC is grassroots. So we have from unit ESCO to state ESCO. If you put them together, only the ESCOs of APC about 44,000 people. You know. Now, what they actually did was, as first, they elbowed everybody out of most of the voting precincts, you know. And after doing that, they went to the coalition centers, cordoned it off with security people so they wouldn't allow other parties to come in, and they wrote the results. Then of course, because INEC people were already compromised, they allowed this result to ride. So what you have, these are written results. Where in Ika Northeast can you show evidence that people accredited 70,000 people. In Burutu, the same thing. You know the terrain. Look, it's only in Delta State where people who live on water are more than those who live on land. As if you look at these results, Burutu is posting 70,000 votes.
So are you suggesting that they didn't use card readers?
Of course they didn't use card readers. Those results were written.
Well, Dr. Otumara. Dr. Otumara.
Dr. Otumara, are you still there?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, there's...
I can hear you.
Yes, okay. The issue of card readers, I mean, Mr. Ogbalor again has accused your party of ensuring voter registration and voting, as a matter of fact, accreditation and voting without card readers. Did this occur in any part of Delta State, to your knowledge?
Well, I wonder whether that gentleman was actually in Delta State on the day of election, because his allegations are quite spurious. He was claiming Burutu to have 70,000. I expect him every figures that is quoted in such an organization. He's the DG. He should be able to quote it. He said Burutu has 70,000 votes. Burutu, as a matter of fact, PDP had 67,619 votes. In the election in Delta State, everybody before the election went through the card reader and got accredited, waited.
There was rain on that day, you know, in Delta State.
Yes.
You know, waited and ensured that the time of voting, they started voting. Like I mentioned, the total number of accredited voters was actually more than the total number of voters, because there were some voice votes. So you can't sit there to be lying, complicating and bringing tissues of lies. In the first place, how can you say the INEC, cooperated, policemen cooperated, this cooperated? So what were they doing in the field? What were the APC people? And they had agents everywhere in all the polling units. They had agents at INEC, they had agents at the INEC office, the headquarters in Asaba, and the respective headquarters of the local government. So it was right in their presence. They could not.
All right, Dr. Otumara, let's take a final question from you before we let you go.
Incident cards. Incident cards, because the PDP had more incidental votes than the credit, and he's saying that look, if he's saying that accreditation was done through card reader, how come we have so many incident cards?
Okay, let's I was going to ask you, Dr. Otumara, that you are going to have a battle on your hands with your candidate because the APC is heading for the tribunal.
Labour is heading for the tribunal.
Yes, Great Ogbalor Labour Party is heading for the tribunal. So you are going to have, too many people coming at you, as it were. How are you people going to handle the challenge to the victory that you are enjoying now?
Hello, Dr. Otumara.
Well, the results are there. We are not in the PDP in Delta State. The PDP in Delta State, we are used to, because we have people who are bad losers. Usually after elections, they must prepare. We must go to the tribunal. But like I've said before, issues are changing. People should try to congratulate. We expect the APC candidate and then the Labour Party to congratulate Senator Dr. Okowa. Now, well done, because it is not imaginable. It was a total victory, a landslide victory for the PDP, and for them to even still be parading themselves that they want to go to court. Oh, we blinded all their eyes, we changed their hands, we did everything, cooperated, the police cooperated with us, INEC cooperated with us. during the election is indeed laughable. It's like they are not part of the process. There are many parties who were involved: Accord Party, ACT, ACPN, ADC, APGA, CPP, COA Party, MPPP. You know, all of them have results. UPP. These results were signed by other party agents who were there. In fact, they themselves, in most of these results, their APC agents signed the results.
Okay, Dr. Otumara, thank you so much for joining us on the O&M Sunday Show. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Otumara talking to us there from Warri, Delta State, DG of the OCOA campaign organization. But we're still in the studio with the DG of the Ortega Mero campaign organization. We'll allow him the last word before we go from Delta State to Abia State, I guess.
Okay, the point I just want to draw the attention of the nation to is that because of the massive misrule in Delta State, opposition in Delta State have festered for some time. In fact, in the 2011 election, the Supreme Court, the difference between, in the final result that the Supreme Court adjudged and accepted, the difference between Dr. Oduara and the opposition contestant was 30,000 votes. So that's to tell you that first, without campaigning in Delta State, people know they've been so misruled and pauperized. So clearly, the masses in Delta State, who in 2011, decided that they've had enough, but they were rigged out, are now being passed through the same trauma this time. I think these people should free us from this enslavement so that that state can have a new lease of life. Now, the PDP had more incidental forms than candidate accreditation. And I'm surprised that the gentleman is saying that accreditation was through card readers. So where are those incident forms coming from? In fact, if you go to, now as we talk, they are even manufacturing more incident form because, it's very easy to write result, but to produce this incident form will take a bit of time. So, this is ongoing. And you can be sure that today, if you ask INEC, they have a lot of incident form that they are used to non-candidate accreditation. So the gentleman wasn't correct in his assertion.
It's okay. So we will keep on following the issues from Delta State. We know that the tribunals are going to be hot with different cases. They're going to be following the one from APC. They're going to be following the one from Labour Party. And of course, we will follow up on all that. But just to let you get a reaction, we'll take a report before we go to Abia from our correspondent Ediri, who was in Warri, Delta State. And also, while some people are crying wolf, let's say, different strokes for different folks, some other governorship candidates are already going to shake hands with Senator Okowa and congratulating him as well for winning the elections.
Dr. Onwubuya, who disclosed that he and his entourage came to congratulate and show solidarity with the governor-elect, stated that Okowa's victory is a reflection of the choice of all Deltans.
I, as a candidate with my team, we have studied the results, except we now found out that the voice of the people are spoken. And there's no need to pick whether or start fighting or going to court. We are all partners in the democratic process. We need to join hands with the winner of this election to see how we can together develop the state.
You're still on to the O&M Sunday Show. Like I said earlier on that from Delta State, we will go on to Abia State, where, of course, elections are inconclusive. Joining us now will be Mr. Nwala, who is the ABGA election manager from Abia State.
You're welcome, Mr. Nwala.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Thank you.
Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
And in a moment, we'll be joined by phone by the Commissioner for Information, Abia State, Dr. Obalor. But coming to you, Mr. Wala, INEC has rescheduled the election in Abia. You were in Abia during that election. What informed the decision of INEC to move the election? What did INEC tell the parties?
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank all the media houses for, especially this period, opening your doors and making it a veritable platform for all parties to ventilate their causes. And you've been well at that. Having said that, the Guba election held on the 11th, and like every other state, Abia State participated. And indeed, what happened in Abia, I would say, is different from what happened in other states, in the sense that while people were voting in other states, most of the local governments in Abia State was more like war zone. And that means that in some local governments, election did not hold. We had instances of ballot box snatching and ballot papers. We went on with some local government that had election up until election ended and collation started. Yeah. At the point of collation, which is where the issue arose, the returning officer commenced with the collation of results up to about 11 local governments. Remember that I said election did not hold in most of the local governments. So at a point, some local governments brought in results. Yes. And indeed, they were jamboree results, like Obiungwa, like Osisioma.
When you say jamboree, you mean that they were fictitious results?
Fictitious results. From the premise I've laid, yes. Election did not hold in some of them. And I'll get to that point. I will elaborate on that. And the returning officer, in exercise of the functions and the powers vested on him by both the Electoral Act and the relevant guidelines, including the INEC guidelines, first of all satisfied himself that election did not hold in those areas, and that the results that came in did not meet the requirement for acceptance. I will address this issue going forward. And also that the reports he has from the presiding officer to the supervisor to the AEOs and EOs that came in informed him that he's satisfied that these elections will not pass the test, and therefore he cancelled them. That is the result from Isialangwa North.
These fictitious results, or jamboree results as you call them, you know, for me, I still find it a little bit difficult that these things can still happen.
Yes.
You know, results can still be written where people didn't vote.
Yeah, how it's done is that, at times, you see, you find a situation where the result sheets are hijacked, are taken away. They don't get to the polling booth. And somebody sits somewhere and write them, fill them up, and then bring them back as elections. And remember, INEC really planned for this election. There were checks here and there. And the presiding officers and the relevant INEC ad hoc staff had also the mandate. If election is not happening, holding in where you are signed, or there are incidents that are adverse to what the instructions you have, put it down. And these things were brought in. So at that point, well, one most important thing is that the electoral returning officer has inherent powers to take certain decisions. And he exercised that decision and cancelled the result. Realize that when a result is... Hello, are we on to Dr. Obalor, the Commissioner for Information, Abia State? Yes. Okay, you're welcome to the O&M Sunday Show. Can you bring down the volume of your television, please?
Yes, thank you. I can hear you.
And I guess you've been listening to us and Wala Oracle, the APGA election manager.
Yes, reasonably. I got at least 99% of what he said.
Okay, well, he's saying that elections did not hold in a lot of places in Abia State. And from what while I saying, ABGA is comfortable with the postponement or rescheduling of the elections.
I've not gotten to that point. I'm not saying that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, they are not comfortable with it, but they also attest to the fact that elections did not hold in a number of places. For you,
Can I now respond?
yes, for you, the INEC rescheduling the elections.
Let him respond.
I think I should have given the scenario.
No, let him come on. You have the. Yeah, Dr. Abbas, we're listening to you.
Very well. In the first place, honestly, it is the height of ignorance from the part of the returning officer, who is a professor of medicine, and ironically not a professor of law, for him to have unilaterally cancelled results of elections where even the commission officers at the local government levels have reported that things went well. Election results where even the INEC officials signed and also the party agents countersigned. Now, in the first place, we have been saying it here that the returning officer actually manifested the height of bias in all that he has been doing, including the work. Maybe along the line, I will also mention some other things in that regard. And you see, this bias, they started exhibiting from day one. You will agree with me that as a collation officer, the returning officer, his job was not to sit there and just like Ziga did in Abuja, to collect results and not for him to begin to do anything extra. The man who is there is my brother Awala. We call him Oracle. Let him tell you what law that empowers the returning officer to do what he did. In the first place, the returning officer, by virtue of the provisions of Section 68, subsection 1 of the Electoral Act, which have already been interpreted severally, particularly in the case of Mokolo against Togo, he has no power to declare an election inconclusive. But it happened sometime about 4 years ago in Imo State, and it was not challenged. Does not make it right. Our laws do not allow that.
So, Dr. Bazore, in other words, for you, actual election took place in those local governments where.
Took place fully. And I don't know whether you still recall that even in your station, a DIG who supervised elections in those areas also confirmed that elections did not just take place, but that they were peaceful. And you also agree with me that even your station also aired the interview that was granted to journalists by two collation officers for Isialanga North and Obinga, stating that elections were very peaceful and that elections took place. And so, the point I am making is that when elections have taken place, been concluded, results written, signed by INEC officials, countersigned by party agents, announced at unique levels, and also announced at local government level, and then brought to the state level population, that returning officer lacked every power to do what he did.
Okay. You just hold on, Dr. Abbas.
I'm really happy you gave him ample time to really exhaust what he wanted to say.
Okay.
And I don't know if I continue from
please,
here. I stopped.
Yes, continue.
Now,
please stay on the line, Dr. Abbas.
If he says that the returning officer lacks power to do what he did, now I don't know who. Like INEC, when INEC kept announcing that where there's violence or no election, there will be cancellation, there will be this, there will be that. Whose functions is that supposed to be if he's not the returning officer in the instance? So I think that what is important is not even what has gone under, including the rigging and the formulation of results, but what really happened. Now, the INEC officer, the returning officer, at that point was in charge of his faculties. Like the person that just called in now, confirmed he's a professor of medicine, and I also reasonably believe that he has some is in control of his mental faculties. He looked at the totality of issues before him, the cases canvassed by the various parties, the petitions that were in, the reports that came in, including that of those of international observers, and he said that based on the pursuant to the powers conferred upon him by the Act and relevant guideline, he is cancelling 1, 2, 3 local government: Isi Alangwa North, Osisioma, and Obingwa. That is the starting point. Now he proceeded with collation of other results, and approaching the point of announcing the results, realize that when he's confronted with a result, he has option of looking at circumstances around the result, accept same, collate it, or order a rerun, depending on the circumstance. He did not. He simply cancelled the results, which he has power to do.
And rescheduled.
He did not reschedule.
Okay.
The issue of rescheduling came later. And the ABGA has not said that they want to rerun election, because elections are cancelled. All that INEC is supposed to do is to proceed with the remaining results, because the circumstance that will warrant a rerun did not arise. That should have been the immediate response or remarks of the returning officer.
So
he had options.
The position of ABGA is that
elections are cancelled. The issue of rerun shouldn't even arise. Now, what really happened? At that point, before he could go to announce the result, the executive governor of Abia State, anchored by such heavyweights as the Minister of State for Defense, a serving senator, Senator Engineer Baribe, the likes of the PDP National Public Secretary Olisametu, bashed on them at the collation center. This is the only place we had such history, such story. My brother, if in this your office, you're from Edo State, I think so.
From Delta.
You're from Delta. No. Let's break it down. Let's get it down. Yes. You're from a Delta. Here you are in Delta doing something, and Governor Uduara barges into your office with ministers, serving senators. What would you do?
Okay.
So every other decision the returning officer did was when his faculty had been hijacked.
Okay. Dr. Obazuare, are you with us? While is accusing the governor of Abia State of interfering.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Dr. Obazuare, go ahead, please.
You see, first of all, before I touch that angle, the one is a lawyer. And since he's a lawyer, if I cite authority, let him cite another one to counter it. That's number one. Number two, the incident that brought in the governor was when this same returning officer that I have told you, using unexpected bias all through, how to say he was cancelling results of elections in local government areas that are strongholds of the PDP, leaving those local government areas that are strongholds of ABGA and other parties.
But that was where the PDP has an agent.
I'm coming. Then in the course of that, the party agents, started complaining. Then people also moved in, people were looking for results, and there were problems between the army outside and some people. The problem became so that the governor had to come. So I left them, and that was when there was quiet in the entire place. So the other one is saying his own. But let me also say this, very, very important for you in this program. Now, all I have said, he has forgotten the fact that Section 179, subsection 2 of Nigerian Constitution 1999, has directed on what should be done in a situation like this. That it is only for that returning officer to confirm that the man who is leading, that somebody has caused a high number of votes, and also has secured at least 25% of votes in at least 2/3 of local governments in that state. And then the latter half in section 69 also recaptures that. Now, there is no other place where you see giving this law, giving this type of power that the state officer was relying on. And even if there is any other place, you
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Otumara.
I wouldn't want us to shift attention from the issues. I wouldn't want us to shift attention from the issues that will trash out at that could be taken at tribunal or the various courts.
Just a minute. Let's thank Dr. Otumara for his time. The program. No, Doctor. Okay, Dr. Otumara. There's another program on Tuesday. We may have to invite you if we must, but we must thank you for your time and then your contributions.
See, I'm happy for something. He confirmed that the governor badged on the electoral returning officer and the rec. He confirmed that he went there in company of all these other
trying
people.
to take care of violence. That was
Because as the chief security officer of the state.
Inside the collation office, inside the room where collation was going on, there were we just had 2 ABGA agents. He did not lay foundation that the PDP agents were even beaten up or there was a fight going on inside. He said that the army stopped people outside from coming in where they had no business going in.
Okay, let's conclude.
The other point we need to the other point we need to note down is this: after the returning officer made that pronouncement, he became Funtus officio. He can no longer discuss that subject matter.
So let me ask you: Are we ready for the elections on Saturday?
If INEC insists, we must go for a run. I tell you, ABGA anytime, any day, we win those 3 local governments.
Okay.
ABGA is ready to go 20 times to win that election, even though we're insisting that INEC should do the right thing, which is to proceed and announce the results.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And Mahmoud, I think that's where we're drawing the curtain.
Obviously.
I sincerely want to thank you again for this platform and helping us to drum it.
It's okay.
Thank you so much.
Obiora Ilo from Abuja, Nigeria. Let's do it again Tuesday night.
And I am Mahmoud Akura.
And then we have a little bit.
We will just wrap up the program today by giving a presentation.
No, you're getting it.
That's your.
I was expecting to get some fluid in it. Thank you very much. Nice to be with you guys.
Thank you. All right. Until next week.
Walked upon the sea, raised that head. Reign in majesty, mighty God. Everything written about you is great. You are great, yes, you are Holy One. Walked upon the sea, raised that head. You reign in majesty, mighty God. Everything written about you is great.